Hey, this is Carla from the Butcher Babies.
This is George Corcoran Fisher from Cannibal Corpse.
Hey, this is Rex from Kill Devil Hill. It's Wednesday 13.
This is Dad from Devil Driving.
This is Motorist from Quad. You're listening to Rabid Noise
on Rabid Radio.
Turn it up.
Welcome back to Rabid Noise on Rabid Radio. That was Right Wing of the Garden Triptych from Cradle of Filth's new album, Hammer of the Witches. And joining us now is the man himself, Danny Filth. Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Well, it's great to have you on the show with us, man. Last time we spoke, you were just about to release the Devilment album, and I believe you've just started working on Hammer of the Witches, which is album number 11. That's a massive achievement, man.
Yeah, people keep reminding us. They keep saying, like, Cradle's going to be like 25 years old soon. It's like, stop it. Stop reminding me. Makes me feel old. No, it's great. It's a really good feeling. This album's really strong, getting a really great reaction from, well, fortunately, only journalists have heard it thus far. It's a good sign. I mean, it hasn't leaked. So, yeah, a good place with it.
Yeah, it is a good album, man. I've been cranking it a lot. The track that I've been stuck on is Blackest Magic in Practice. That's the one I keep going back to. I really dig that track, man.
Yeah, it's I guess it's the weepy of the album. You know, we're slightly slowing things down a little bit. Well, it doesn't. It gets fast and heavy and has a bit of a death metal interlude in it. But yeah, I would say that's actually my favourite track as well.
Yeah, it's really melodic and it's definitely a journey, man. Like it's got a lot of different changes and stuff. Yeah, that's the one that stuck out to me at the moment, but it'll probably change. I'll probably like another one next week. It's got a lot going on this album. I really dig it.
Cool, thank you.
Well, as we were saying before, you know, this is album number 11, and not many bands, you know, last that long these days, you know, with the industry and everything like that. And you've been, you know, doing Cradle since the early 90s, and a few members have come and go over the years. Of course, that happens with bands. You know, you've got a couple of new guitarists in the band this time as well. What's the requirements of joining Cradle other than being able to shred, obviously?
Well, we had to find two new guitarists out of complete necessity. We were co-headlining a big tour across Europe at the beginning of last year with Behemoth, and we already knew that our previous guitarist, Paul, couldn't do the tour for whatever reason, and so we'd had to find someone to replace him for the tour. And then, literally, the 11th hour came, and our other guitarist, James, who'd been suffering from quite a severe neck injury, had been getting progressively worse, found out that he had to undergo surgery. And so he was out of the equation. And rather than cancel the tour and undo all that hard work with Richard joining, we were introduced to Marek, or Ashok, as he's known, who lived in Brno in the Czech Republic, so Martin knew him, the drummer knew him. Indeed, we call them the Czech mates now. So he came on board, and having both of them very prolific guitarists, both joining at the same time, has really, you know, pushed forward the whole notion of the twin guitar harmony. And we were playing a lot of material from our older works. In fact, it's so good now, and I can speak on behalf of how good the musicians are, because I just hang around with musicians and the vocalist. We're now able to plunder anything from our back catalogue, which is another asset as well. So I'd say, you know, if people were going to join the band, and hopefully there will be no more vacancies, and then this lineup's going to be pretty solid, it would have to be, you know, being into the band, being very astute and lots of good ideas, being obviously very talented guitar-wise, but more importantly than anything is really compatible with the idiots that are literally Cradle of Filth.
It sounds like it's a new era for you guys. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we've been cocooned in the studio for quite some while. We came out at the end of April, and then suddenly it's back into craziness again. Since then we've played the Philippines. I actually did a show with Devilment and Cradle on the same day at Grass Pop in Belgium a couple of weeks ago. I presented at the Kerrang Awards, presented at the Metal Hammer Awards. It's just gone loopy, and you're suddenly, from being ensconced in a studio in the middle of nowhere, really isolated for months upon months, not seeing another human being, because you get back sort of really late at night and leave early in the morning from my house, to suddenly being back in the whirl of rush of humanity, it's like a bit mind-blowing. Cool nonetheless, though.
How'd you go doing the Devilment show and the Cradle show on the one day?
Well, we didn't play at the same time. That was a benefit.
Yeah.
People say I can sing out my arse, but I can't do both at the same time. Yeah, that was pretty difficult. It was fun, but it was like literally come off stage and then we had a signing in between, so I literally had to go get the makeup off, do the signing, go back, grab something to eat, and then start the rigmarole of getting ready for the Cradle show. But it was awesome. I don't think I could do it every day, but once or twice a year would be awesome.
That's pretty epic, man. That's pretty epic considering, usually do a pretty long set with Cradle alone. To do, 2 big sets in a day, you probably would have wanted to sleep for a week.
I did.
Awesome, man. Well, another thing about Cradle is, the merch has always been memorable, and it's always good to ruffle a few feathers, especially with the Jesus is a shirt, which I'm pretty sure is one of the biggest selling shirts of all time. Do you still hear stories of people, getting themselves into trouble wearing that one around?
Yeah, the recent thing in New Zealand, which was ironic, really, because some woman who took offence at the shirt, despite the fact that she was warned what was going, that it was put in sort of as I'm led to believe, a part of the museum that you had to be 18 to get into and whatever. She decided to spray it so people couldn't see it and thus make it a big palaver and fuss over it. Just put it to more people's attention because obviously it got reported on, so that was a bit contradictory. Yeah, it pops up every now and then. That actually led to a big thing in Rolling Stone last week, where they did a big piece on that T-shirt, and I found out about a lot of other things through that piece because it was really good journalism. Actually, quite surprised, and they dug up a lot of stuff I had no knowledge about different people being persecuted for it. But yeah, I get, it's just one thing the band's done, and yes, it will come to haunt us probably for our entire career, but what the hell, who cares?
All right, well, we're going to go to the track Deflowering the Maidenhead, Displeasuring the Goddess now, and we'll be back very soon. Hey guys, just want to take a minute to give a shout out to our podcast supporters, RW Promotion, who are the best in the business when it comes to printing posters, flyers, banners, badges, business cards, you name it. They've got what it takes to help you get everything you need to help spread the word about your band or business. And with a blistering turnaround, they'll make sure you get your product ASAP. So get in touch with Richard and the team at www.rwpromotion.com.au or shoot them an email at info@rwpromotion.com.au. Also want to give a shout out to the guys at Blacklight Art and Design, who in my opinion are the Gold Coast best screen printers. So, we've gotten many band shirts and even our own Rabid Noise shirts done through these guys. And they've also got one of the fastest turnarounds I've ever seen. So all quality prints at competitive prices. So whether it's band merchandise, sporting teams, promotional garments or workwear, they've got you covered. So hit them up at www.blacklightad.com.au or email them at info@blacklightad.com.au. So big thanks to those guys for helping us to bring you this podcast each and every week and for, of course, supporting the metal scene. So now it's back to Rabid Noise. And we're back with Danny Filth on Rabid Noise. Now, it's no secret that, you're a classic horror fan, and with the very sad recent passing of the legendary Christopher Lee, did you ever get the chance to hang out with him and get to know him?
Ironically, we approached him way back when, I think it was for Midian. We'd already worked with Ingrid Pitt, we chose her to portray Elizabeth Bathory on the album Cruelty and the Beast, and of course she was known for playing Countess Dracula in Hammer. Hence the reasoning behind that. But we did approach Christopher Lee, and he was busy at the time, and it doesn't seem so much of a sort of palm off by him, saying, oh, he's busy, he doesn't want to work with you. In hindsight, because of obviously his involvement with metal, even this Christmas he did a metal covers album, so he was quite genuine about wanting to get back with and probably working with us. And thus we worked with Doug Bradley, who played Pinhead in the Hellraiser series. We even had Tony Todd, who played Candyman, audition for an album, but his agent didn't tell him quite what he was letting himself in for, and so he bailed at the last minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was actually saying to my wife last year, God really should, having watched Lord of the Rings, really should do something with Christopher Lee soon, because he is obviously getting on a bit. And then I was on the train to London a few weeks ago going to the Krang Awards, and text me with the sad news, and I was literally, normally when you hear news and that, you're going, oh God, that's sad. Oh, but I was literally mortified.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. But I mean, he lived a massive life. The stuff that guy did,
Yeah, of course. Yeah, totally. I mean, but I think he could continue. I mean, like I said, a metal album at Christmas, and he was doing so many films. I mean, he literally got into every massive franchise that there's been: James Bond, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, etc., etc.
Absolute legend. You're not just a front man, but you're also a family man as well. And you've spoken about your daughter, Luna, a few times in interviews. Does she follow in Dad's footsteps, or is there just that's just what Dad does?
No. Well, she's sort of getting into entry-level heavy metal at the moment, and what I mean by that is like the slew of American bands that are more haircuts than music, if you know what I mean. But I was kind of fortunate enough that I was presenting at some awards recently, and I managed to get some people's autographs for her, so that's all cool. But yeah, God forbid that she should follow in our footsteps. I mean, with the current climb of music in general at the moment, with the digital download age, which is literally has a stranglehold on the whole music industry at the present, then I would strongly recommend not following in my cloven hoof prints.
Does she follow what you do and things like that, or is it just
of course,
Dad's job?
We can't fail not to, really, living in the same house.
As we were saying before, you've been doing this for many years now, and probably gone through truckloads of stage makeup. Do you get sick of putting the makeup on all the time, or has it become a bit of a ritual for you personally?
Well, it's a ritual. You're used to it. Obviously, I was talking to Nick Holmes, actually, from Paradise Lost, because he's singing there a couple of weeks ago at Hellfest, and he was there with Bloodbath, and he was saying it's weird because he'd never dressed up before until he joined Bloodbath. And he actually quite liked it, but he and he was saying, but I can't imagine being like you, and like every time you have to play. And it was really, really hot in France as well at that point, and the dressing rooms had like sort of a perspex ceiling, so it was just face melting, and the whole ardor of like putting this makeup on was just a bit much. And he was like sympathising with me, saying, God, I can't imagine it every night on a bloody tour. And I was like, yeah. But, that's the way it goes, suffer for your art and everything. It's a good job that we do it, really. We horrify people with our true faces.
Well, can we expect to see you guys down here soon?
Well, we've been talking about that this very morning, because between interviews, our booking agent, who, strangely enough, is the guy I formed Cradle of Filth with, Paul Ryan, he went off on a completely different tangent, different path to mine. And he's actually been really successful as a booking agent. He works for the Agency Group. And we just announced a European tour yesterday, and he's been badgering me today about dates for South America. And then we've got our much belated American tour looking like it's going to happen beginning of January through to March. And then that's pretty much as far as the horizon as it goes. And then he was mentioning today about getting interest from Australian promoters. And I was like, yes. And don't forget to put New Zealand on there, because it's the band have been wanting to strike that off their bucket list for some time now. There's little pockets of places around the world, like Turkey, for example, where we've tried to play there about 4 or 5 times. Every time something happens. Last time it was the big riots they held in Turkey, and the government obviously thought that 35,000 rabid metalers was some kind of weird social gathering, and so banned it. But New Zealand, for some reason, always gets omitted